Hey everybody, welcome back to the Chronicles of the Range Monkey. I'm your host, Natalie, and I'm here with my personal performance coach, Chris Bean. And today we're going to talk a little bit about tracking good habits.
Palm pepper spray has recently reformulated for even more effect when you bless the deserving with the hot sauce. Palm is what I use between a harsh word and a gun and encourage everyone to do likewise.
All right, everybody. So today we are going to talk a little bit about coaching yourself. So for the last few weeks, I have been being my own coach in dry fire training, and it's been kind of an interesting learning curve. As you know, if you've been watching the Chronicles, I usually have my dad with me for all of my range trips. And so I usually have a coach that knows typically what I'm watching for and what I need out of that coaching session. And now I am shooting by myself in my dry fire dojo, and I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to be watching for. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to be noting it. And so I just wanted to ask Chris a few questions about this, and I thought maybe you guys would like to know too. So, Chris, what are the first couple of things that you need to know when you're coaching yourself? What kind of comes to mind when you're right at the beginning, like I am?
Well, probably the easiest thing to do, and I think you've actually taken this class from me, is I'm a huge proponent of videoing yourself, a huge proponent. And I'll frame it kind of how I frame it in that class, where almost anybody could see someone throwing a football, and if they were throwing a football really weird, even if they've never thrown a football, they noticed that something didn't seem quite right about it. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So I'm kind of a huge fan of videoing yourself. One, just from a purely technical point of view, to start seeing things like if you've got big hunches going on, or when your hands meet the gun, or if you're doing like a big hunch in your head, things like that, you will literally very quickly be able to see that and notice that's not normally what you see, or it's not what you experienced when you were doing it.
Right. Yeah. And that all comes back to your perception of yourself.
Right. So that's probably one piece that you could literally get to the point where that doesn't look right, or I don't think I was trying to do that. And if that presents itself, once you become cognizant of it, you can normally start making corrections subconsciously. And even if that's not the case, so one thing I tell people a lot, if they start getting like shoulder hunches, things like that, and they're by themselves, one thing that I try and tell people is like, go up against a wall and put your back against the wall and put the back of your head against the wall and perform the function. Like we'll frame it as a draw. And you'll then have a tactile reference that something's moving that you're not intending to move. So
Okay.
with your back's against that wall, you can feel that happen. You can be like, ah.
Yeah. Yep. A lot of I've had trouble with that before in the past,
Mhm.
and what my dad always does is he'll put his hand
Sure.
right there on my shoulder, and I need that almost like physical reminder of, hey, keep your shoulders down.
And it almost immediately stops. Like I can't tell you how many times I've been speaking with a shooter. I'm like, hey, you're raising your shoulders, or hey, you're moving your head around. No, I'm not. And the
Yeah.
moment you do that, either they'll stop or they'll do it once, and then once they feel that, it will stop.
Yeah. Yeah, I was
So
noticing that with my students at the range as well. So that would be a good idea to go up against the wall. Another problem that I was having while I was coaching myself was like finding a routine to stick to almost. I feel like I'm like getting off track almost. I don't know when to take the notes. I don't know if it's worth it to fall out of a good flow. Like if I'm in that good flow state and I do a beautiful draw, I don't really want to fall out of that flow state to put my gun back and go and write in my notebook for a minute. But I do want to document that shot. So where's the line there? Talk to me about that.
yeah, I don't know that I would stop and go and make a notation in your journal for one repetition. I'm more of a kind of a grander picture kind of guy, so I make entries on sessions.
Oh,
So
okay. That
like,
makes a lot more sense.
yeah, a singular draw either favorable or unfavorable, or any task, it could be an outlier. So I like looking at the larger picture. So say you're doing a series of 30 draws, and to the best of your recollection, and again, this is your recollection of it, 80-90% of them were really solid. Well, that would be the entry I make. 80% very solid, felt fluid, however you wanted to frame it. And then you're still adhering to the positive aspect of the session.
Yeah.
And then I would put need to work on X to address the outliers. So I would definitely not stop, especially if things are going well, to because you're resetting everything, you know. So I think of it more like a playback. You want to be present enough throughout the entire session that you can play that back reasonably and then notate what you observe. See, but that's the thing, that's how you'll know if you're present. Now, if that is 5 repetitions for you, then so be it, it's 5 repetitions. If it's 100 repetitions, so be it, it's 100 repetitions. But if you get, say you're on a roll, just like you said, like your experience, like flow, to stop that, do what you're going to do, reset your mind to go back into it again, the chances of you experiencing that again in the same session are probably relatively small.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So it's been kind of hard. I've been taking mental notes of what
Mhm.
I'm seeing, how the gun feels in my hand, what shape my hand is making, when I go to draw the gun. Because right now I'm still working on that goal of uh, I want to be able to get to or to refine my draw enough to consistently be taking B8 shots, 10 ring or better at 1.25 seconds. 8 out
Nice
of
and
10.
good.
I think that's all of the pieces. I
Yep,
have been
that is
memorizing.
all the pieces. That's good.
Yeah. So awesome. Is there any other
Yeah, so you
pieces of
are,
advice you have?
I I think when we laid out the program, you're using basically just a part-timer once a week, and you're using Laser Academy once a week as well, correct?
Mhm.
So the Laser Academy stuff, that keeps track of data for you. So you have data. That'll tell you where your hits are located, and that'll also give you an idea of what the times are. So what you can do with that, so say you finish a session, you can go into Laser Academy, and if you're doing like I don't remember exactly what the program's called, but free holster, for lack of a better way to
Oh,
put it.
right.
If you were going to do that, I think it's set up default as 10 repetitions. Let's say you want to do 30 repetitions. You can set it up as 30 repetitions. You can set up the time between repetitions. So it's not like go, 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 go. You have a little bit of time to reset, think about what you're doing. And what that does at the end of that particular session, you'll have your fastest, and then you'll have kind of an overarching average. So that really, and what I'll do if I'm doing it on a smaller session, like I do tens and I just do multiple tens. But if I have a rep, and I can normally keep track of it with a session of 10, like, okay, number 6 felt good. I do not take the time to go, okay, where did that hit go? Or, I read my sights, I do the repetition, but I'll go back and I'll look at like rep 6 and what was that time? And normally it coincides pretty well with the rep that just felt easy. And when it's the
Yeah.
rep that feels easy, then you really start putting thought into what's different between that one and the one that did not. And then the one that did not feel easy, was there a correction I applied? And what happened after the correction? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yep.
So it's really about being in it. So I've heard you talk a little bit about like, ADHD and kind of wanting to like flight from one thing to another. What I suggest you try and do when you go into dry fires, you take a moment just to reset. And the way I use it all the noise of the world goes away. When I am working with my gun, it is me and the gun. And it allows me to focus where I couldn't focus like that doing other things. But I've literally created that relationship with the gun that's now my quiet time for conversation with me and my favorite thing, you know?
Yeah.
And when you can do that, you'll start getting to the point where you're so involved with what's happening and the nuance starts to show up because the noise of non-focused thought goes away.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah. Awesome. Well, as always, thank you so much for your input, Chris. And we will probably be continuing this conversation. We can get some more coffee, and we will see you guys next week on the Chronicles of the Range Monkey. See you later, Chris.
Bye.